everybody, welcome back to the GallowgateShots YouTube and podcast channel. This is the big one. Welcome back to the first match preview for our Champions League group stages, Group F, Group of Death, whatever you want to call it. We look at it as a group of opportunity. It's AC Milan versus Newcastle United. I'm Scott. I'm your host for this one, and I am joined this week by Daryl and Andy. Daryl, mate, how are you doing? Are you excited for Tuesday night?
I'm doing well, mate. Thank you. Yeah, really excited for Tuesday night. It's back in the Champions League for the first time in 20 years. So many memories from the last time we were in this competition. Mainly my first game for starters against Leverkusen at home. But yeah, I mean, this is us in the big time now. Back where many of the fans will say we belong. I mean, we do, but I don't know if we're ready for it. But I'm just here for the ride. It's going to be part of that big Newcastle United roller coaster, and we'll see how we get on it.
We certainly will. It's come along a lot quicker than I was anticipating, Andy. Are you surprised how quickly this has crept up on you, and how are you feeling coming up a Tuesday?
I'm nervous. I'm excited. I'm a ball of emotions. I feel like I just need to see the players lined up, see that Champions League centre circle thing waving, hear the music. We just need it. It doesn't feel real still. I don't think it'll feel real until we see them walk out and exchange the banners before the game and things like that. I can't wait. Cannot wait.
Do they still do the team photo at the start of the game? They take a team photo before the kick-off. I'm still remember that, but I don't know.
I think
put out for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into seeing what work Newcastle will have cut out for them, here is a word from our sponsor. The GallowgateShots match preview is brought to you by Magpin. Magpin are the go-to site for high-quality, unofficial enamel pin badges of Newcastle United players, legends and retro kits. For more information, visit their website at magpinbadges.bigcartel.com. Okay then, so Tuesday night, 5:45 p.m. kickoff. It's an early one at the San Siro in Milan, not in Madrid. It's live on TNT Sport. Daryl, as you mentioned there, it is our first Champions League game in 20 years. I think we're all immensely looking forward to it, but we're all a little bit nervous as well. What are your confidence levels going into this game?
You know what? I'm actually quite nervous myself, so I wouldn't say my confidence levels are particularly high. And we know that, and I'm sure we'll get onto it, that Milan's form this season isn't the best. And they'll certainly win. If you look at that last result on Saturday night, it wasn't great. But again, we aren't exactly in the best form ourselves. We got a vital win on Saturday against Brentford, but we're still adjusting to life this season, and we haven't quite found that magic formula that just has us gelled, and we're not quite as fluid as we were at our peak last season either. I feel like not only will there be a lot of nerves for those of us watching at home, for those lads and lasses in the stands at the San Siro, but I also think there might be a little bit of nerves in the squad. I think when the lads are out there lined up, ready to go, and the Champions League music is playing, I think their emotion will be right up there. I mean, there'll be so many emotions going through all their heads. There's not much experience of Champions League football in that squad. I can imagine Tonali will be absolutely fine if he starts. And then you've got the likes of Dan Burn and Sean Longstaff. If they're playing, they're just going to be, I can imagine they'll be very, very close to tears, just with pride and the fact that effectively all of their dreams are coming true by the fact that they're playing this level of football. So for me, it'll be interesting to see just how it's all about how the lads handle the situation. I'm pretty sure Eddie will have them ready for that. And again, you have to think about Eddie as well. It's the first time Eddie's managed at this level. It'll be a whole new experience for everybody involved, but who knows? But I'm nervous.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned their form, Daryl. Obviously, league form goes out the window in these sort of competitions. It's two completely different things. You see that all the time with the likes of Man City and Man U, and they'll be doing well in the league, and then they'll maybe not do so well in these cups, or vice versa. They're currently in 4th, and that's a time of recording because I think Atalanta are winning 1-0 at the moment as we are recording this, which has knocked them down to 4th. I think they're on 3 wins and 1 defeat, and it was one heavy defeat that they've just suffered against Inter Milan only yesterday. It was a 5-1. 5-1 drubbing. Yep. But I mean, they have had some good wins. I mean, they've beat Roma, I think, the week before, and they've not done too bad. They've seemed to have filled the hole that we all thought Tonali was going to leave, albeit with Ruben Loftus-Cheek, but it's been filled. Andy, players that AC Milan have that we should be wary of. Obviously, you could probably just say all of them, and we'll be done in 5 minutes. But I'm sure you've picked out a few that you think maybe are worth highlighting.
Yeah, well, ironically, I wouldn't say it's all of them, because I think they're a team that have quite a few gaps in them. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm a Serie A expert. I'm not sort of like James Horncastle or whatever. But just from what we've seen of Milan and what we know about them, we know that they're really all about going forward. And they've got Rafael Leao on the left wing, who is, I mean, the left wing in Europe, it's stacked in terms of talent, but he is one of the best wingers in world football, especially just the attacking side. He got 15 goals last season, got 8 assists. He's very much the key man. Be similar conversation when we talk about PSG and talk about Mbappe. It's that person on the left-hand side who does everything for them. So poor Trippier is getting his work out in this Champions League, but he's the world star. If it wasn't for someone like Vinicius Junior, he'd have gone to Real Madrid already. Unbelievable player. Olivier Giroud still playing at 731 years old. Amazing player. One of my all-time cult heroes. I used to love him at Arsenal when he scored that scorpion kick goal, whatever it was, over his head. Just underrated, underappreciated player. He got 13 goals last season. He's already got 4 this season. So he's ticking along nicely, as he always does. And the other player I wanted to pick out really was actually just on the defensive side, because you'd only think about threats. But Milan actually weren't great defensively last year. They, I think, 8th best defence in the league. It was very much about the goals. We've just seen them get drubbed by Inter, but Tomori, who's their linchpin at centre-back, was actually suspended for that game, so I'm told. So him coming back into the side, they've got a very set back 4 with Hernandez, Tomori, that's Simon Kjær, who's the guy who was at the Premier League not too long ago. The World Cup with Denmark not too long ago. Very settled team. So they've kind of got these pockets of really good players, but I think in the middle, Tonali going has been a massive loss for them. I think Milan have never really recovered from losing Pirlo, which sounds like a ridiculous thing to say, but and again, I'm not an expert, but it always seems like Milan in the past had this linchpin midfielder, and this time around, when you look at them, I don't think they really have that. It's Loftus-Cheek in there now, and there's players who you don't really know much about. So it's really up top with that connection between Leao and Giroud, and then at the back, not quite as good, but they'll definitely be better than they were last week.
Well, it'll be interesting to see who they start with, because I think you mentioned Giroud, but I think he has been injured for the past couple of weeks, so maybe he's not quite ready. I don't know. I don't know if he featured at all last night or not. And then, like you say, the defender who was suspended is back, and that's probably going to do for them what Sven Botman did for us at the weekend. Kind of coming back into the team and actually being that linchpin, as you've said, in defence. Daryl, normally I ask you about the last time around, but we've never actually played AC Milan in a competitive game, so I can't ask you that question this week. So we thought we'd do something a little bit different this week, and we'll talk a little bit about the officials that taking place, because it was obviously a big talking point yesterday in the Brentford game, and it's been a huge talking point throughout the season for Premier League officials. However, it's a completely different story when it comes to European football, because you don't typically get Premier League referees refereeing clubs that feature, English club games. Yeah. So do you want to run us through the officials and what we can maybe expect going into this game on Tuesday from that side?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have to first consider that when it comes to European competition, in a way, it's going to be a clash of styles. And we're not just talking about Newcastle versus Inter Milan. So we're not just talking about England v Italy here. We're talking about the clash of styles in terms of the level, not the level, but the way the referees manage the game and referee the game, basically. So the team of officials for the game against Inter Milan this week are going to be from Spain. The referee, the man in the middle, is Jose Maria Sanchez Martinez. who has a very interesting set of stats in 19 La Liga games last season. He issued 104 yellow cards and 5 reds. 3 of those reds were in just the one game, which was the Seville derby between Betis and Seville. So, you know, I think judging from...
We don't have Gione anymore.
Well, we've got...
I was just about to say, thank God Joe Linton's injured.
Yeah, I know.
He's got 4 and 4, so God help him. I think, like, historically, from when I used to watch a lot of Spanish football, you can get certain people, certain officials in that league who are quite happy to just dish out cards whenever they please. Basically, they can be quite erratic in how they issue their cards. They can do it for the slightest thing, and sometimes you wonder if they're even issuing cards for the right sort of challenges. So assisting the referee there, we've got assistant referee number 1 is Raul Caballero. His second assistant is Inigo Prieto. And then 4th official is Cesar Soto. And the VAR official is the man so good they named him twice. It's Alejandro Jose Hernandez. Now, from when I really used to watch a lot of Spanish football, he used to feature in quite a lot of those games. And he is a very, very experienced Spanish official. He's been around for at least 10, maybe even 15 years now. So it's interesting to see him taking the role of the VAR official. I don't know if the official ruling for UEFA games in UEFA competitions is to have maybe an official who is close to or has already stopped refereeing games in the middle, and they're being used to use the video referee. But yeah, he's somebody who's very experienced in the game. It'll be interesting, like I said, to see how they all manage the game. I've seen a couple of games already this season, in particular one right at the very start of the season with Girona and Barcelona, I think it was. And at the end of the game, they ended up playing about 9 minutes of added on time. And there was a lot of decisions. There were 2 decisions at either end. So you had one at the in the Girona box for Barcelona, and you had another one at the other end in the Barcelona box for Girona. And there were 2 massive penalty shouts. And I originally thought that the Barcelona one was a penalty and it wasn't given. And then the same thing happened down the other end. So it was all chaotic. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But expect the unexpected, I think, is the warning I would give when it comes to Spanish officials. I don't want to be stereotypical, but I will be. It can be quite interesting when they manage a game. If they happen to think they're losing control of the game, the cards will come out and they'll come out fast.
Yeah, it's obviously worth mentioning. Obviously, you know, the Champions League is supposed to be the best of the best in Europe, and I think that also applies to the officials. You get in there on merit, not just on kind of, you know, well, not on merit, on your form, not just because you know the right people, because they pick them the best of all the leagues to referee these games. We'll see how it fares out. It could be that actually what we're saying is absolute tosh and we get
could well
5 red cards. Who knows? We'll see what happens. We'll move on to Newcastle, Andy, and obviously we saw 5 changes at the weekend from Eddie Howe. We've discussed this a little bit in the reaction video for that Brentford game, but is it your feeling that some of those were changes to rest players for this game?
Yeah, I think there's a couple where Howe maybe had the benefit of players not performing, so he could sort of rest them without really resting them, if that makes sense. So Isaac's a great one. He would have loved to have obviously rested him, but it gives him a good opportunity to get Wilson in there, and Wilson then fights because he thinks that Isak's being dropped because he's not playing very well and things like that. So yeah, there has to be a little bit of that. I think we'd be naive to say that Howe's going to try and pump out with the same 11 players every single week. But Brentford game, ideal result for everyone, really. Clean sheet, win, no one's injured. Our sort of best players for Europe have all been rested, apart from obviously Bruno. But Bruno seems to have the stamina of a giant. He's just keep going forever, although I think we're still not 100% sure whether he's 100% fit ever since he signed. But he's got to have rested people. I think we said before the Brentford game, it'll be this is all new to us. We don't really know how this all works with Europe. Obviously, when you're playing domestic cup competitions, you pretty much just always play your first team in the league, and then in the Carabao Cup early round, you chuck in a few young ones and you put in the second choice keeper and things like that. But completely different this time around, where you need your first 11 for both competitions. So I think we've seen a little bit already of how the transfers we've made in the summer will help in terms of getting Barnes in, who looked like he's slotted in straight away. But then also knowing that we've got people like Hall and Livramento who can come on and do a job after the Champions League if people are tired and things like that. So yeah, I think we're very likely to see the team that played against Villa be the 11 for this game, but we don't know. Again, every manager's different. We see Guardiola try all these weird and wonderful things in the Champions League. So maybe Howe will think, right, in Europe away from home, we'll maybe play with an extra midfielder, we'll do this, that and the other. We don't really know what he's been doing over the summer. So he is a creature of habit. He tends to stick to the same system with little tweaks here and there, but hopefully we're going to Milan. No one's jet lagged, no one's tired, and we can give it 100%.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one in the middle, especially Daryl, because obviously we've heard about Joe Linton. He's going to be out for a few weeks, and I just pray to God that's not an Eddie Howe few weeks, because he'll be out till January if that's the case. But you know that we're probably expecting that back line, the back five, to probably stay as is. But it's that middle where the questions will be asked on who starts and who gets to go. Obviously, you know, Elliot Anderson and Sean Longstaff both started yesterday against Brentford, and you know they didn't do themselves any harm. They put in some good graft and some good performances. What's your expectations when it comes to that middle? Do you think Tonali was just rested, and if he's, you know, is it going to be a late call for him whether he starts or not on Tuesday, or do you think this is all a little bit of mind games and maybe he's, you know, he was rested to make sure he's 100% for this game on Tuesday?
Yeah, I think he probably was rested to make sure he was fit. Certainly, so we can get at least a good portion of that game out of him before he then has to come off. I think it'll be interesting to see which three he picks, as you say. I don't know. Like I say, it all depends on how Bruno is recovering from the Saturday game. I still have a thing in my head about both Bruno and Tonali playing together not quite being as balanced as it could be. But I think with the fact that there's no Joe Linton, I think that probably forces the hand. And my midfield three would be Longstaff, Tonali, and Bruno. The options are still there with Anderson to keep Anderson in and drop Longstaff, but I just think those three will be the more steady three to choose from. And then if needs be, they can all rotate in the middle. One can sit where either two go, etc. And that midfield three is going to be crucial because AC Milan are no slouches in the middle of the park. So the battle of the midfield will probably be what decides the game.
I think what's going to be nice, and I know this is going to sound awful, but it's not meant this way. But the fact that Joe Linton is injured, that we can play Longstaff, and Longstaff can actually sit in that holding midfield role, and we'll see a Tonali and a Bruno playing together in a more advanced role. Like one will be box to box and one will be more, I'm using a football manager term here, but a Mazzala, where, you know, they're kind of just playing free roam and doing what they want. But there's no gaps being left, because that was always the argument when all three of them played, is that they were all moving forward and leaving the gap at the back. Sean Longstaff will be more than happy to sit back and do that work, do the, you know, the engine work that, you know, we all see him do every single week. So it might be a good mix. And, you know, a lot of people say, no, it's Bruno and Tonali who we're not seeing work together. Maybe it's Joe Linton that's actually being the thing that's causing the bigger issue. And I'm not saying it's an issue massively, because, you know, they're all going to have to all play together.
He's not been fit though, has he? I think it's obvious he's not been
fit. He certainly wasn't fit against Brighton, and I really do wonder why he played that game, because he clearly wasn't right.
He's not the engine that we've seen for Joe. It just hasn't been that battering ram. And also, I think going away to play for Brazil probably was the worst thing for him. You know, obviously not professionally, but in terms of that knocker injury, because obviously he hasn't come back from there, and he's now in Spain getting treatment on whatever it is he's getting treatment on. Andy, obviously we've talked about Isak up front. I think we touched on this in the preview as well. I think Isak is the Champions League striker, if you would call it that, and Wilson will be the one who maybe comes on when, you know, maybe it's the Milan defence are a little bit more tired, and you bring on Callum Wilson to bully them for a bit. I think that's going to be a good ace in the hold to have. But when we talk about the wingers, obviously we've got Anthony Gordon, we've got Harvey Barnes, who both started. We've also got Miggy Almiron and Jacob Murphy, and Jacob Murphy hasn't featured much this season. What are your thoughts on the wingers in the situation, on who gets to start really when it comes to the the Champions League games?
Well, the initial thoughts are, and this is a cliche, it's a really nice problem that we've actually got options in attacking areas.
Yeah.
I think it's a difficult one, but just starting with the Isak point, because yeah, you're right, he is the one that we signed for those mega games. He's that person who is that bit of quality. He's got more about his game than Wilson. He can run with the ball. He's got a bit, obviously really good in tight spaces, finishing. He's great. But we've just seen in the game just at the weekend, in that clutch moment, Wilson is the guy. He can score the penalty. He can score the goal. If it's going to be a tough game, would you rather have someone like Wilson where if a ball drops to his feet, he's going to put it away? Not saying Isak's not going to do that, but it's just obviously one thing to think about. I think Howe will go to what he knows and trusts tactically for a game like this. And I think in this game, it will be someone like Almiron, even though we obviously know he's got his deficiencies. Sometimes we're a bit overstated. Sometimes people defend him blindly. We all know he's got issues, blind spots in his game. But I think tactically and the amount of running he does, I think Howe will want that in this game, especially when we talk about layout and people like that on that side. On the other side, Gordon's been our player of the season so far. So why fix something that isn't broken? But equally, he will be knackered. We've got Mr. Hernandez on the VAR. He'll be looking to send him off at every opportunity. So maybe don't have him there. It's interesting. And like you say, Murphy as well. Yeah, we haven't seen him at all. He's almost gone back to being that player he was before last season, which was the forgettable one. But he's still there, and he was so good last year, and it's almost like we've just sort of binned him off now. We've got the shiny new toy in Barnes. So it'd be interesting to see. I think the obvious thing to say would be it's going to be Gordon, Isak, Almiron. But as we've seen, there could be, Hal might think, right, do you know what, in this game, it's going to be a really tough start. We just want that extra pace going forward on the break. We'll put Murphy on there instead of Almiron. So, who knows? I think whatever happens in how we trust, and I trust as well that if it doesn't quite go to plan, he'll have a plan B, C, D, which might involve Tyndall kicking balls on the pitch and doing all sorts of weird things. Because I believe he can stand in the dugout in the technical area in Champions League.
Yeah, it's the Premier League rule, isn't it? Yeah.
So we'll be back to the shithousing ways.
Hopefully. I mean, you've mentioned Miggy Almiron there, and a lot of people say, Miggy would be better suited for the Spanish league or the Italian league or whatever. Playing a Spanish-Italian side, it's like, this is what it's there for. So maybe, we actually see the best of Miggy Almiron against AC Milan, because I don't want to say it's his level, because that's harsh, but the way that this game gets played, and it's not going to be as fast paced as maybe the Premier League game would be. His running could be the big difference with that. Is the differential between us getting the ball and not getting the ball when it comes to, I don't know how fast our defenders are, but it could be a difference. We'll move on. We'll move on to our predictions, because I think everyone's itching to give theirs. But before we do that, obviously, as always, we have a members prediction. We have Lloyd this week from Wales. It's really weird. We haven't had a Geordie on the members prediction. I don't think we've had a single one. I think they've all been living outside or away from Newcastle, or not from Newcastle originally. So we have another one, and there are Geordies in the members. In the membership in the Telegram group, so it's just the luck of the draw of who gets it. But we have Lloyd. Here is his prediction for Milan.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm Lloyd, and I've been a Newcastle supporter all my life, even though I am from South Wales. 32 years old, which means I'm old enough to remember the last time we were in the Champions League. Not sure whether Milan's crushing Derby defeat this weekend is a good thing for Newcastle or a bad thing. They'll either come out all guns blazing or will have their heads dropped, so it's a tough one to call regarding that. And our win yesterday was massive, even though we still haven't hit the performance heights of last season, bar in the Villa game. I feel like the pressing intensity quite hasn't been there, and I feel we are missing the Joe Linton and Joe Willock combo down the left. But I do feel like we did see some improvements with the likes of Gordon and Barnes in the Brentford game. And having Sven Botman back is a huge boost also. So, to be honest with you, I can't see anything but a Newcastle win on Tuesday, if I'm honest. I think we're going to be buzzing for it, and I think it's going to be 2-1 to Newcastle, with Tonali the first just to play to the narrative, obviously. And then Isak is going to get the winner after being rested for the Brentford game.
Still 100% record with these members.
100% record. Victory. Yeah, every game.
Mate.
So, Andy, do you agree?
Yes and no. I think when Lloyd said, I don't see any result other than a Newcastle win, I think that's being quite excitable. But I know where he's coming from in terms of saying Milan are a bit of a weird one. Will they come out all guns blazing, or will they have their heads down? I think we've said this before, cup football, it completely goes out the window. We said this ourselves with the Carabao final. We obviously were pretty poor in the whole lead up to that, but it was always just, you know what, the cup's a single game. We just need to perform in that one game and that's it. So, yeah, it's obviously really hard to predict these kinds of games. I think what's the point of getting in the Champions League if we're not going to then be optimistic and think we're going to beat teams? So I agree. I think why not have the Hollywood script completely and have Tonali score a goal and then just like, I don't know, burn a Milan shirt or like shush the crowd or something, just to wind them up even more. And then that journalist who absolutely was adamant he wasn't coming to Newcastle will cry somewhere. But no, I don't know. I think it will be really difficult for us, but I think we'll give a really good account of ourselves. But I'm wanting to say that I'm going to be slightly pessimistic and say we'll get a score draw in the first game, but it'll be a sort of confidence boosting score draw, if that makes sense. We'll play really well. We'll have stages in the game where we dominate them. There'll be other stages where we're maybe on the back foot a little bit. I can see us maybe coming from behind to get a 1-1 draw, something like that. And I won't actually say Tonali because that is very Hollywood, but yeah, we'll go with an Isak penalty.
Ooh, a penalty. Ooh, Hernandez is going to be busy. Especially if if Ollie's burning Milan shirts, there's definitely going to be some VAR decisions happening. Daryl, mate, are you as optimistic as Lloyd or as pessimistic as Andy, or are you somewhere else?
I think I'm just about as pessimistic as Andy, to be honest. I think it'll be a score draw as well. I also think it'll be 1-1. But I have a feeling that we might be able to get a bit of a lead. I think we'll take the lead. I think it'll be Isak who gets the goal. But I just think when it comes to the experience in the competition, I think Milan will probably have the guile to get themselves back into a game from that sort of position. The only thing that I think that we have in our advantage really is that we are the dark horse here. We are the surprise package. You know, we're coming into this competition where teams don't really know us. I mean, I know everybody will be doing all of that statistical work behind the scenes and all that scouting, but again, we are the dark horse of our group, really, aren't we? I think we can all agree on that we're going to be able to cause a couple of shocks and bring a few surprises to the table with some of the games. And I think because this is the very first one, I think I probably would have said this no matter which one of the three teams that we were going to play in the first game, especially away from home, that we are going to cause a little bit of a surprise. And I think the surprise will be that we'll probably take the lead, but then not be able to hold on to it due to the experience levels in the squad. I really don't think that we'll lose. I'm not going to be that bad about it. But again, I think a win is such a huge ask, and I don't quite think that we're ready yet. I think, like Andy said, this is going to be the groundbreaker and the icebreaker for the competition. And I think if we can get a decent result out in Milan, it'll set us up well for the next game, which is at home to PSG.
How weird is that to say?
It's mental, it is.
It was PSG, yeah, something like that.
PSG. We'll sort them out next
time. Finish the week after.
This is what feeler. So sorry, did you say 1-1?
1-1, yeah.
Yeah, 1-1. Okay. I agree. I don't think we're going to win this, but I don't think we're going to lose it.
God, how boring are we?
I would prefer. Well, no. So I would prefer it if Milan scored first. If I'm being honest with you, because for us to come back from a deficit and to actually, pull a point out of the bag when, maybe Milan are, on the front foot a little bit more in the game. Obviously, they've got home advantage. I think us to pull that goal back will not only give a shock to Milan and send a shock through the group, but also I think for the confidence levels of our players going into the league and then the next Champions League games, I think that'll be a big boost. Obviously, winning will be much better, but I kind of agree. I don't think we're quite there yet. But this is just not a game that you can kind of scratch off because it's Champions League. You get one opportunity at the San Siro, but it'll be something that we can maybe try something new, or something's going to happen on the formation. So I actually think it'll be 2-2. I think we will go maybe 2-0 down in the first half. And then second half, I think, an Eddie Howe and Jason Tyndall halftime team talk special is on the cards. And we will come out with that second half, all guns blazing, with the away fans rocking the San Siro. And I'm going to go for Isak. I'm going to go for Isak brace in the second half, and I think we're gonna pull it back. And
Yeah.
do you know what? We could potentially nick it. I'm not going to say we're going to win, but potentially nick it. But if it goes that way, I'm not writing off a 3-2 victory, and that would be lush. But let's stick with the 2-2 draw. And I also think Giroud, if he plays, is going to score against us because he always does. He always scores against us, no matter if it's Chelsea, whoever it is. Yeah,
I absolutely love that you're going full nostalgia with our last trip to the San Siro with a 2-2 draw and the striker to get a brace.
Yeah, well, why not?
Blinded by nostalgia, all of us, aren't we?
History can always repeat itself. Let us know in the comments what your predictions are. Are you as forthcoming as some of us? Are you as pessimistic as some of us? Do you think we're going to get absolutely smashed? Let us know. We will all read those comments and find out together. Boys, does anybody want to add anything before we wrap this one up?
The champions.
There you go. Someone had to sing it. We'll probably get done for copyright after that, but no, I doubt it.
That was so out of tune. It won't breach copyright.
Slightly off key. The AI bots won't pick it up. So it's fine. Well, all that's left for me to do is to thank Daryl and Andy for joining me today. Thanks to Lloyd, our member, for his prediction as well. I hope you're out there somewhere in a pub somewhere in South Wales and you're able to watch a game or just watching it at home. And wherever you were watching it, we're watching this match, please be safe. If you're out in Milan, obviously, follow the guidelines in terms of where, the places are where they've assigned. I think one of the canals, if I remember rightly, is going to be the black and white canal. So make your way down there.
Before the stadium.
Go to the toilet beforehand, yes. Or take a Pringles tube and piss in that like that. And to Harry and Daniel and Joe, who were all out there from the GallowgateShots team, have the best time ever.
Yeah.
Also be very, very safe, especially to Joe, because I think he's in the home end. So be very, very safe, Joe. But all that's left for me to do is to thank everyone for watching. If you like this content, please hit the thumbs up button. If you don't like it, hit the thumbs down button. But this is the Champions League. We don't accept thumbs down in these videos. So thumbs up only. If you want to know when other videos go live, hit the subscribe button. And when you do that, a little bell will appear next to that subscribe button. Hit that and you will be notified when new videos go live. We will be back this week for the Always Smiling Faces podcast. You're also going to get a reaction to the AC Milan game. And there'll be a match preview for the next match. And I don't actually know what that is. Sheffield United, right?
Sheffield United away on Sunday,
yeah. That won't be me because I'm away on my holidays. So I'll probably be around for the AC Milan reaction. But you're going to have a new host for the forthcoming previews. So again, like last year, if Matty takes over and does a better job, I'll probably get substituted off and I'll be like Jacob Murphy for the rest of the season and not feature. But we'll see what happens. But all that's left for me to say is thanks everybody for watching. And we will go into this one. I mean, I don't care what happens. We're in the Champions League. Like, who cares? But it would be nice to come away with at least a point. We will see you all in the next one. Thanks, everybody. Ta-da.
Bye-bye.